1. Get ready to feast your eyes on a 1976 Mercury Grand Marquis, a true gem from the golden era of American automotive design. Now let's get down to the nitty-gritty. The seller is asking $4,700 for this vintage ride, and from what they've shared, it seems like a pretty sweet deal. The ad mentions that this Grand Marquis has been cherished by a single owner and boasts a clean title, which is always a good sign. With just 31,000 miles on the odometer, this car has barely stretched its legs. Under the hood, you'll find a gas-powered engine that's paired with an automatic transmission, making it a breeze to cruise down the highway or navigate city streets. The seller's description keeps it short and sweet, simply stating, "Old school, clean and runs great." While it's not the most detailed account, it does suggest that this Grand Marquis has been well maintained and is ready to hit the road with its new owner. Of course, as with any classic car, it's essential to give it a thorough inspection before making a final decision. The seller doesn't mention any specific issues or areas of concern, but it's always wise to take a closer look and maybe even bring along a mechanic friend to help you assess the vehicle's condition. All in all, if you're on the hunt for a vintage ride with plenty of character and style, this 1976 Mercury Grand Marquis might just be the one for you. With its single-owner history, low mileage, and clean title, it's definitely worth considering. So why not take it for a spin and see if it's the perfect fit for your garage? 2. We've got a real treat for you, a 1966 AMC Rambler that's sure to turn heads and get your heart racing. This beauty is currently listed on Craigslist for $15,000, and from what the seller has shared, it seems like it could be a dream come true for the right enthusiast. First off, let's talk about the condition of this Rambler. The seller describes it as like new, and based on the details provided, it's easy to see why. The body and paint are said to be laser straight, which is a testament to the care and attention this classic has received over the years. Plus, there's no rust to be found, which is a major bonus for any vintage ride. Under the hood, you'll find a powerful 327 V8 engine that's ready to roar to life. With 8 cylinders and rear-wheel drive, this Rambler is built for performance and handling. And with a clean title in hand, you can feel confident about the vehicle's history and ownership. Now, let's talk about the features that make this Rambler truly special. It's a convertible, which means you can enjoy the wind in your hair and the sun on your face as you cruise down the road. The power top is in excellent shape, and the seller even mentions that the soft top is in great condition too. And if you're worried about comfort, don't be. The interior has been recently updated, ensuring a pleasant ride for you and your passengers. Of course, as with any classic car, it's always a good idea to inspect it thoroughly before making a final decision. While the seller's description paints a pretty picture, it's important to verify the condition of the vehicle in person and maybe even bring along a trusted mechanic to give it a once-over. All in all, if you're in the market for a stunning classic convertible with a powerful engine and a clean bill of health, this 1966 AMC Rambler might just be the one for you. With its laser-straight body, rust-free condition, and updated interior, it's sure to provide plenty of joy and excitement for years to come. So, why not take a closer look and see if it's the perfect fit for your garage? 3. We've got a real classic on our hands, a 1974 Ford Thunderbird that's sure to make your heart skip a beat. This beauty is currently up for grabs on Craigslist, with the seller asking $12,000 or entertaining your best offer or trade. Now, let's dive into the details that make this Thunderbird so special. According to the seller, this car has an incredible 39,000 original miles on the odometer. That's right, just 39,000 miles. It's rare to find a classic like this with such low mileage, and it's a testament to the care and preservation this T-Bird has received over the years. Under the hood, you'll find a beastly 460 motor that's ready to roar to life. With 8 cylinders and rear-wheel drive, this Thunderbird is built for power and performance. And with a clean title in hand, you can feel confident about the vehicle's history and ownership. But that's not all. This Thunderbird is loaded with features that make it a true luxury ride. It's got power windows, a power seat, a power antenna, and power door locks, ensuring that you'll be cruising in comfort and style. The seller even mentions that they've recently invested in some upgrades, including new brakes, ball joints, a water pump, and a gas tank with a sending unit. These updates show that the owner has been proactive in maintaining this classic beauty. Now let's talk about the condition. The seller describes it as good, which is a positive sign. However, as with any classic car, it's essential to inspect it thoroughly in person before making a final decision. While the low mileage and recent upgrades are definitely appealing, it's always wise to verify the vehicle's condition and maybe even bring along a trusted mechanic to give it a once-over. All in all, if you're on the hunt for a stunning 1974 Ford Thunderbird with low mileage, a powerful engine, and plenty of luxury features, this listing might just be the one for you. With the seller open to offers or trades, there's some room for negotiation too. So, why not take a closer look and see if this T-Bird is the perfect addition to your garage? 4. We've got a real gem to share with you. A 1978 Chevy Malibu that's sure to get your engine revving. This beauty is currently listed on Craigslist for $15,000, and based on the seller's description, it seems like it could be a fantastic find for the right enthusiast. First off, let's talk about what's under the hood. This Malibu is powered by a 350 small block Chevy engine with a mild cam, which the seller says provides a nice choppy sound. Paired with a TH350 transmission that features a manual valve body, this setup promises a fun and engaging driving experience. The dual exhaust system is sure to turn heads as you cruise down the street. Now, let's move on to the overall condition of this classic. The seller describes it as solid and clean, which is a great sign. The car sports a fiberglass 2 cowl hood that adds to its aggressive look, and it's been garage kept, which has likely helped preserve its condition over the years. The adjustable rear ride height with air shocks is a nice touch, allowing you to fine-tune the stance to your liking. Mechanically, the seller states that there are no issues, and the car can be driven daily or enjoyed as a weekend warrior. The brakes and tires are said to be in good shape, which is crucial for safety and performance. As for the interior, the seller mentions that there's some minor wear and tear, but nothing out of the ordinary for a car from 1978. It's important to keep in mind that some signs of age are to be expected with a classic vehicle. One thing to note is that while the seller describes the condition as good, it's always a smart idea to inspect the car in person and verify its condition before making a final decision. If possible, bring along a trusted mechanic or classic car expert to help you assess the vehicle's overall health. The seller is asking $15,000 for this 1978 Chevy Malibu, but they also mention that the price is negotiable. Plus, they're currently insuring the car for $25,000, which suggests that they believe it has significant value. And if you're not local, don't worry. The seller is offering delivery options, making it easier for you to get your hands on this classic beauty. All in all, if you're in the market for a solid, clean, and fun-to-drive 1978 Chevy Malibu with a 350 engine and plenty of character, this listing is definitely worth checking out. 5. We've got a real treat for you. A 1984 Chrysler LeBaron that's sure to turn heads and make you feel like royalty. This beauty is currently up for grabs on Craigslist for just $6,000, and trust me, it's worth every penny. First off, let's talk about the rarity of this particular LeBaron. According to the seller, it's one of only about 100 made in 1984, which means you'll be driving a true collector's item. But what really sets this car apart is the fact that it's the Mark Cross edition. For those who don't know, Mark Cross is a renowned manufacturer of high-end leather goods, so you can expect the interior of this LeBaron to be nothing short of luxurious. Now, let's move on to the overall condition of this classic. The seller describes it as good, and based on the details provided, it seems like this LeBaron has been well maintained over the years. With 120,000 miles on the odometer, it's clear that this car has been enjoyed, but it still has plenty of life left in it. The white paint job is sure to shine in the summer sun, and the convertible top will allow you to feel the wind in your hair as you cruise down the road. Under the hood, You'll find a fuel-efficient 4-cylinder engine that's paired with an automatic transmission, making it a breeze to drive. And with front-wheel drive, you'll have plenty of traction and control, even on slick roads. But let's be real. The real reason you want this car is for the sheer cool factor. The seller even mentions that this LeBaron has been featured in popular media, like the movie St. Vincent starring Bill Murray and the TV show Seinfeld. You might even find yourself asking, is this Jon Voight's car? Spoiler alert, it's probably not, but it's fun to pretend. Of course, as with any used car, it's always a good idea to inspect it thoroughly before making a final decision. While the seller describes the condition as good, it's important to verify this in person and maybe even bring along a trusted mechanic to give it a once-over. All in all, if you're in the market for a rare, luxurious, and undeniably cool classic car, this 1984 Chrysler LeBaron Mark Cross Edition might just be the one for you. With its convertible top, leather interior, and celebrity status, it's sure to make you feel like the baron of your own world. 6. We've got a real gem to share with you, a 1979 Ford LTD Landau that's sure to make your jaw drop. This beauty is currently listed on Craigslist for $10,000, and based on the seller's description, it seems like an absolute steal. First off, let's talk about the mileage. This LTD has an astonishingly low 26,000 original miles on the odometer. That's right, just 26,000 miles. It's incredibly rare to find a classic car from the 70s with such low mileage, and it's a testament to the exceptional care and preservation this vehicle has received over the years. Now, let's move on to the overall condition of this LTD. The seller describes it as excellent, and based on the details provided, it's easy to see why. Both the paint and interior are said to be completely original, which is a true marvel for a car that's over 40 years old. The blue exterior is sure to turn heads wherever you go, and the original interior promises a comfortable and nostalgic driving experience. Under the hood, you'll find a powerful 8-cylinder engine that's ready to roar to life. Paired with a smooth shifting automatic transmission and rear-wheel drive, this LTD is built for cruising in style. The seller even mentions that the car is fun to drive, which is a huge plus for any classic car enthusiast. Of course, as with any used car, it's always a good idea to inspect it thoroughly in person before making a final decision. While the seller describes the condition as excellent, it's important to verify this for yourself and maybe even bring along a trusted mechanic to give it a once-over. However, given the low mileage and original condition, this LTD seems like it could be an incredible find. All in all, if you're in the market for a stunning low-mileage 1979 Ford LTD Landau with original paint and interior, this listing is an absolute must-see. With its powerful 8-cylinder engine, automatic transmission, and fun-to-drive nature, this classic beauty is sure to provide endless smiles and memorable cruises. 7. We've got a real treat for you, a 1978 Dodge Magnum that's looking for a new home. This beauty is currently listed on Craigslist for $4,500 or best offer, and based on the seller's description, it seems like it could be a fantastic opportunity for the right buyer. First off, let's talk about the ownership history of this Magnum. The seller mentions that they purchased it from the original owner and have had it in their possession for the past 15 years. That's a good sign, as it suggests that the car has been well cared for and appreciated by a long-term owner who knows its history. Now let's move on to the overall condition of this classic. The seller describes it as good, which is a positive indication. While the term good can be subjective, it's encouraging to know that the seller has enjoyed this Magnum and considers it to have been a great car during their ownership. Under the hood, you'll find a 318 cubic inch V8 engine, which is a reliable and powerful option for this era of Dodge vehicles. Paired with an automatic transmission and rear-wheel drive, this Magnum is sure to provide a classic American muscle car experience. The odometer shows 71,000 miles, which is relatively low for a car of this age. While it's not as jaw-droppingly low as some other classics we've seen, it still suggests that this Magnum has been driven with care and not excessively worn out. As for the exterior, the seller mentions that the car is blue in color, but doesn't provide much detail beyond that. It would be wise to request more photos or inquire about the condition of the paint and body to get a better sense of its overall appearance. Now, here's where things get a bit tricky. The seller recently had to move and no longer has a garage to store the Magnum, which is why they've decided to part ways with it. While this is an understandable reason to sell, it's important to consider that the car may have been exposed to the elements more recently, which could potentially impact its condition. As with any used car, it's always a good idea to inspect it thoroughly in person before making a final decision. While the seller describes the condition as good, it's crucial to verify this for yourself and maybe even bring along a trusted mechanic to give it a once-over. Pay special attention to any signs of rust, mechanical issues, or other potential problems that may have arisen from its recent lack of garage storage. 8. Let me tell you about this absolutely fascinating 1985 Pontiac Fiero SE I just found on Craigslist. You know, these mid-engine sports cars have such a unique place in automotive history, and this particular example at $8,000 really caught my eye. What we're looking at here is a show winner, and I can totally see why. This Fiero has gone through a complete restoration, and I mean complete. They've taken everything apart piece by piece and put it back together with all original OEM parts. That's the kind of dedication we love to see. With just 54,000 miles on the clock, it's barely broken in for a car of this age. The professional paint job really makes this Fiero pop, and being garage kept means it's been properly protected. It's got all the comfort features you'd want, working AC, which is a big deal for these cars, a sunroof for those perfect driving days, and even an AM/FM CD player for your cruising soundtrack. For $8,000, considering the current market and the fact that this is a show-winning example with documented restoration work, I'd say this is actually pretty fair pricing. Clean title, automatic transmission, which some folks prefer, and everything's original. That's a recipe for a solid investment in a rising classic. These Fieros are becoming more appreciated every year, and finding one this well-maintained is getting harder. Just remember, folks, this isn't just a car. It's a piece of American automotive history that dared to be different. 9. We've got a real piece of American muscle history to share with you. A 1967 Ford Mustang that's looking for a new home. This iconic pony car is currently listed on Craigslist for $5,000 or best offer. And based on the seller's description, it seems like a solid project car with plenty of potential. First off, let's talk about the heart of this Mustang. Under the hood, you'll find a 200 cubic inch inline-six engine, which is paired with an automatic transmission. While it may not be the most powerful option out there, the seller mentions that the engine did run with some carburetor adjustment. Plus, they've already made some upgrades, including a new carburetor, spark plugs and wires, which should help with the car's overall performance. Now let's move on to the condition of this classic. The seller describes it as good, but it's important to keep in mind that this is a project car. They've made some progress, such as installing a new fuel cell, hood, and trunk, but there's still work to be done. The seller also mentions that the wheels are a bit mixed and matched, with some being flat, so that's something to keep in mind if you're considering this Mustang. As for the exterior, the car is white in color, which is a classic look for a Mustang. However, the seller doesn't provide much detail about the overall condition of the paint or body, so it would be wise to request more photos or information to get a better sense of what you're working with. The odometer shows 74,176 miles, which is not unreasonable for a car of this age. While it's not a super low number, it's also not astronomically high, so it's likely that this Mustang has been driven and enjoyed over the years. Now here's where things get interesting. The seller is asking $5,000 or best offer for this Mustang, but they're also open to trades. This could be a great opportunity for someone who has another vehicle or item of value that they're willing to part with in exchange for this classic pony car. Of course, as with any project car, it's crucial to inspect it thoroughly in person before making a final decision. While the seller describes the condition as good, it's important to verify this for yourself and assess the amount of work that still needs to be done. Bring along a trusted mechanic or classic car expert to help you evaluate the car's overall condition and potential. 10. We've got a sweet ride from the classifieds that's sure to turn some heads. Check out this 1977 Chevrolet El Camino, a classic pickup that's got style for miles. Now let's talk about the nitty-gritty. The seller's asking $8,000 for this beauty, and from what they've shared, it seems like a pretty solid deal. The ad mentions a rebuilt 350 engine, a new carburetor, and a fresh distributor, so you know this El Camino's got some serious power under the hood. Plus, with a 700R transmission and a hush-mat floor, you can expect a smooth, quiet ride. The seller does admit that the car has some cons, and they mention getting tired of working on it. It's important to keep in mind that while the overall condition is listed as good, there might be a few things that need some TLC. The odometer reading of 35,000 miles is pretty low for a car of this age, but it's always a good idea to verify the actual mileage. Aesthetically, this El Camino's rocking a brown paint job, which might not be everyone's cup of tea, but hey, that's what custom paint jobs are for, right? The ad also states that the title is clean, so you shouldn't have any issues with paperwork. All in all, this 1977 Chevrolet El Camino seems like a solid project car for someone who's ready to put in a little work to make it their own. With some killer features and a reasonable price tag, it's definitely worth checking out if you're in the market for a classic pickup with plenty of potential. As always, make sure to do your due diligence before making any big purchases. Give the seller a call, ask for more info, and maybe even take this bad boy for a test drive. Who knows? This could be the start of a beautiful friendship between you and this awesome 77 El Camino. 11. Get ready to feast your eyes on this stunning 1980 Cadillac Seville two-door Opera Coupe that's currently up for grabs on Craigslist. This silver and black beauty is sure to turn heads wherever it goes. First off, let's talk about the condition of this classic Caddy. The seller claims it's in excellent shape, and from what we can see, it looks like they're telling the truth. The body is straight with no rust, and the paint job is simply gorgeous. The odometer shows only 63,000 original miles, which is pretty impressive for a car that's over 40 years old. Now, let's dive into the details. This Seville is rocking a front Rolls-Royce grille and 18-inch chrome spoke rims that give it a seriously luxurious vibe. The seller has also done some recent maintenance, including new front and rear brake lines, rotors, calipers, and pads, as well as a new master cylinder and spark plugs. The 5.7-liter motor runs great, and the seller says it's ready to drive anywhere. Inside, the custom interior is in fantastic condition, with brand new carpet and LED lights in the doors and throughout the cabin. The Bluetooth stereo system comes with all kinds of functions and is paired with some nice speakers for great sound quality. The air conditioning and heat work perfectly, and the seller even changed the antifreeze, flushed the system, and added a new thermostat. Now, the seller does mention a couple of small paint imperfections that can be touched up, but overall, this Seville is a real head-turner. Parts are easy to find and relatively inexpensive, so maintaining this classic shouldn't be a hassle. The asking price for this rare Cadillac is $15,000, and the seller is open to cryptocurrency and offers delivery. With a clean title and a whole lot of style, this 1980 Seville Opera Coupe is a must-see for any classic car enthusiast. 12. We've got a real blast from the past to share with you. A 1968 Ford Galaxy that's looking for a new home. This two-door coupe is being offered by Mayberry Motors LLC in Eugene, Oregon for just $3,995. Now let's get down to the nitty-gritty. The seller hasn't provided a ton of details about the condition of this Galaxy, so we'll have to work with what we've got. The ad mentions that it's powered by a 302 engine and comes with an automatic transmission, which is a pretty standard setup for a car of this era. It's also got a clean title, which is always a plus. Unfortunately, there's no information about the exterior or interior condition, nor are there any details about the mileage. This means that potential buyers will definitely want to reach out to the seller and ask for more info and photos before making the trip to Eugene. It's important to keep in mind that a car from 1968 is over 50 years old at this point, so it's likely to have some wear and tear. While the seller hasn't mentioned any specific issues, it's always a good idea to go into these situations with realistic expectations. Classic cars often need a little extra TLC, but for the right enthusiast, that's all part of the fun. All in all, if you're in the market for a vintage Ford Galaxy and don't mind a little mystery, this could be a great opportunity to snag a cool project car at a reasonable price. Just be sure to do your due diligence, ask plenty of questions, and maybe even bring along a mechanic buddy to help you assess the car's condition before making any final decisions. And hey, even if this particular Galaxy isn't your dream car, keep an eye on Mayberry Motors LLC's inventory. With any luck, they might just have another classic gem waiting in the wings. 13. We've got a real treat for you. A 1977 Pontiac Firebird that's up for grabs on Craigslist. This classic muscle car is being offered for just $8,500. And from what the seller tells us, it could be a great project for the right enthusiast. First things first, let's talk about the condition. The seller rates it as fair, which is a pretty honest assessment. They mention that there's no rust on the floorboards, which is a big plus for a car of this age. However, they also note that their husband doesn't have the time to continue working on it, so it's likely that there are still some things that need attention. Under the hood, you'll find a powerful 8-cylinder engine, which is exactly what you want in a classic muscle car like this. The ad also mentions that the car is in good running condition, so it seems like the engine has been well maintained over the years. The transmission is automatic, which makes it a bit easier to drive than some of the manual Firebirds out there. Inside, the seller has added a new stereo system, but they've kept the original 8-track player for that extra dose of 70s nostalgia. The odometer shows just 31,193 miles, which is pretty low for a car that's over 40 years old. Of course, as with any classic car, it's always a good idea to verify the actual mileage before making any final decisions. The exterior of this Firebird is painted a cool blue color, and while the seller doesn't mention anything about the paint condition, it's likely that there are some signs of age and wear. The car comes with a clean title, which is always a good thing when you're dealing with a classic. Now it's important to keep in mind that a car from 1977 is going to have some quirks and may need some ongoing maintenance. The seller mentions that there are no major issues, but it's still a good idea to have a trusted mechanic take a look before you make any big decisions. All in all, if you're in the market for a classic Pontiac Firebird and don't mind putting in a little work to make it your own, this could be a great opportunity. The price seems fair for a car of this age and condition, and with a little TLC, this Firebird could be a real head-turner at your local car shows. 14. We got a treat for you today. A 1962 Buick Wildcat that's just begging for a new owner. This vintage beauty is up for grabs on Craigslist for just $8,000. And from what the seller tells us, it could be the perfect project car, or even a daily driver for the right enthusiast. First off, let's talk about what makes this Wildcat so special. Under the hood, you'll find a 401 Nailhead engine that the seller says runs great. For those who aren't familiar, the Nailhead is a legendary Buick engine known for its power and durability. The fact that this one is still running strong is a testament to the quality of these classic Buicks. The seller also mentions that most of the car's systems are working, including the radio, windshield wipers, lights, and power steering. That's pretty impressive for a car that's almost 60 years old. It's clear that someone has put a lot of love and care into keeping this Wildcat on the road. Now, let's talk about the condition. The seller rates it as good, but they do mention that there is some visible surface rust. That's not uncommon for a car of this age, and it's definitely something that can be addressed with a little elbow grease and some TLC. The seller also notes that this Wildcat would make a great project car. So if you're handy with a wrench and don't mind putting in some work, this could be the perfect opportunity to bring a classic back to its former glory. The odometer shows just 65,000 miles, which is relatively low for a car that's been around for almost 6 decades. Of course, as with any classic car, it's always a good idea to verify the actual mileage and condition before making any final decisions. Aesthetically, this Wildcat is a real looker. It's got a classic white paint job that's sure to turn heads wherever it goes. The car also comes with classic plates, which is a nice touch for any vintage ride. The seller mentions that the car has a clean title, which is always a good sign. They also say that it's a great price, and we have to agree. $8,000 seems like a pretty fair deal for a running, driving classic Buick with this much potential. 15. Get ready to fall in love with this stunning 1965 Chevy Corvair convertible that's currently up for grabs on Craigslist. This beauty is being offered by Dennis Buys Classic Cars in Los Angeles, California for $12,000, and trust us, it's worth every penny. First off, let's talk about the condition of this Corvair. The seller rates it as excellent, and from what we can see in the ad, they're not exaggerating. The body is super straight with no signs of accidents, and the mist blue paint is absolutely gorgeous. The top is in excellent condition, and the two-tone upholstery is nearly flawless. It's clear that this car has been very well maintained over the years. Under the hood, you'll find a 164 CID 110 HP 6-cylinder engine that's paired with a 4-speed manual transmission. The seller mentions that the dual carbs have been recently rebuilt, and they even have receipts to prove it. This Corvair is a true California car, which means it's totally rust-free, a huge plus for any classic car enthusiast. The odometer shows just 8,163 miles, which is incredibly low for a car that's over 50 years old. Of course, as with any classic car, it's always a good idea to verify the actual mileage before making any final decisions. Inside, you'll find the original AM radio, which is a nice touch of vintage charm. The seller also mentions that wipers and side mirrors have been added, making this Corvair even more practical for modern driving. Aesthetically, this Corvair is a real head-turner. The original hubcaps and excellent tires give it a classic look that's sure to get attention wherever it goes. Plus, with a clean California title and current registration, you can be sure that all the paperwork is in order. Now, it's important to note that this Corvair is being sold by a dealership, which means you'll likely have a bit more peace of mind than buying from a private seller. Dennis Buys Classic Cars has a reputation for being the king of affordable classics, and they even offer trades and handle all the DMV hassle for you. Of course, as with any classic car purchase, it's always a good idea to see the car in person, take it for a test drive, and have a trusted mechanic give it a once-over before making any final decisions. 16. We've got a real gem to share with you, a 1963 Chevy Bel Air that's been cherished by the same family since it was bought new back in September 1963. This four-door sedan is being offered for just $6,500, and it comes with a whole lot of history and charm. First off, let's talk about the condition of this Bel Air. The seller rates it as good, and from what we can see in the ad, it seems like a pretty honest assessment. The car is straight and has never been wrecked, with just one small dent in the rear driver trim by the bumper. There's not much rust at all, which is impressive for a car that's almost 60 years old. Under the hood, you'll find the original 283 V8 engine paired with a Powerglide automatic transmission. The seller mentions that the car runs, starts, and drives nicely, and they've done a lot of maintenance and repairs over the years to keep it in good shape. This includes things like a new muffler and tailpipe, new tires, a rebuilt carburetor, and various front-end parts and shocks. The odometer shows just 59,900 miles, which is believed to be original based on the maintenance records kept by the original owner, the seller's wife's grandfather. The seller even has a notebook where he kept track of all the maintenance and free lifetime warranties he took advantage of, which is a really cool piece of history to have with the car. Inside, the Bel Air is showing its age a bit, with the headliner falling and some small rips in the seats. The top of the back seat also needs to be recovered. However, the dash and instrument panel are in really good shape, and the car has never been smoked in. The seller mentions that it could use a paint job, as the current paint is original. One thing to note is that the odometer is currently broken, so the actual mileage may be a bit higher than what's shown. However, based on the maintenance records and the condition of things like the original gas and brake pedals, it seems like this Bel Air has been very well cared for throughout its life. The seller has a clean title in hand and is not looking for any trades. They also mention that they'll require old-school payments, i.e., no Venmo or similar services. So keep that in mind if you're interested in making an offer. 17. Let me be straight with you about this 1969 Mercury Cougar convertible I found on Craigslist for $9,000. I've got to be honest, this one's definitely a project car, and you need to know exactly what you're getting into here. The seller's being pretty upfront about its condition, listing it as fair and needing a complete restoration. While these Cougars are absolutely beautiful cars when done right, with their hidden headlights, sequential taillights, and that gorgeous late 60s styling, this particular example is going to need a lot of love and, more importantly, a lot of money. Yes, it runs and drives, which is actually a decent starting point, and it's got the desirable V8 under the hood. But when a seller recommends transporting it on a trailer, that's usually a red flag telling us it's not really roadworthy. The convertible aspect makes it more desirable, but also potentially more problematic if there's any water damage or structural issues. At $9,000, you're really buying potential here. These Cougars, when fully restored, can be stunning vehicles worth significantly more. However, be prepared to invest probably 3 to 4 times the asking price to get it there. The good news is it has a clean title and it's currently registered in California, which typically means less rust than cars from other regions. Bottom line, if you've got the time, money, and passion for a serious restoration project, this could be your ticket to owning a piece of Mercury's luxury muscle car history. But if you're looking for something ready to cruise in, you might want to keep looking. 18. We're looking at a 1984 Cadillac Eldorado convertible that's popped up for $5,000, and let me tell you what we're really dealing with here. This is one of those situations where we need to read between the lines a bit. While the seller lists it in good condition, they're also calling it a project car. And when someone says project car and has great potential, that usually means it needs work. The fact that they specifically mention it, just made it to Havasu from LA, tells us it's at least running, which is a plus, but also hints at possibly being a somewhat risky drive. These 84 Eldorado convertibles are actually pretty interesting cars. They're front-wheel drive with that classic V8, which was pretty unique for its time. When they're properly restored, they're absolutely gorgeous pieces of American luxury, with all that classic Cadillac presence and style. At $5,000, you're not getting a show car here. You're buying a project that's going to need some investment. The white paint probably needs attention, and being a convertible, you'll want to check the top mechanism and weather sealing thoroughly. The good news is, there's some maintenance paperwork, which is always reassuring, and it has a clean title. Here's the real talk. If you're looking for a unique project that isn't your typical muscle car restoration, this could be interesting. These Eldos have been climbing in value lately, especially the convertibles. But go into this with your eyes open. You're probably looking at several thousand more in restoration costs to get it to its full potential. 19. Let me tell you about this interesting 1979 Pontiac Firebird Formula I just found on Craigslist for $9,500. This one's got a pretty intriguing story. It's a one-owner car until recently, which is always a good start. Let's be real about what we're looking at here. Under the hood, you've got the 301 cubic inch V8, not the most powerful engine option for these cars, but it's original and running. The odometer shows just 15,705 miles, though with these older cars, always verify if that's actual mileage. The white over gray exterior with that red interior is a pretty striking combination. And speaking of that interior, here's where you'll need to roll up your sleeves a bit. The seller's being honest about needed work. The rear plastic side panels need replacement, and the parcel shelf needs attention. But hey, the important stuff like the bucket seats, door panels, and dash are reportedly in good shape, which is actually pretty rare for these cars. The mechanical side seems solid. Power steering, power brakes, front discs, drums in rear, and all gauges working, which is a big deal for these cars. The AC compressor kicks on but isn't blowing cold, typical for these old systems and usually fixable. For $9,500, you're getting a formula that's driver quality with some needs, but nothing that seems overwhelming. These late 70s Firebirds are climbing in value, and finding a one-owner car with original components is getting harder every year. If you're looking for a solid project that you can drive while you improve it, this could be your car. Just budget for that interior work and AC repair, and you'll have a sweet piece of late 70s American muscle. 20. Today I want to tell you about a really interesting 1962 Buick LeSabre I found on Craigslist for $14,500, and let me tell you, this isn't your typical grandpa's Buick. What we've got here is a tastefully modified LeSabre powered by the legendary 401 Nailhead V8, an engine that's become quite desirable among hot rodders for its torque and unique character. The seller's done some smart upgrades that actually improve the drivability without destroying the car's classic essence. Let's talk about those upgrades. They've converted it to four-wheel disc brakes, which is a huge safety improvement over the original drums. The slight lowering job with new shocks gives it that perfect stance, and those aftermarket wheels really set it off. But here's what really caught my attention. They've done the floor pan replacement the right way. They cut out the old, welded in new metal, and then went the extra mile with bed liner and sound deadening. That's the kind of detail work you want to see. The interior's been refreshed, and they've cleverly installed a modern radio that looks period correct but gives you Bluetooth capability. Best of both worlds. The odometer has rolled over, but that's expected for a 60-year-old car. At $14,500, considering the work done and current market values, this is actually pretty fair pricing. You're getting a classic Buick that's been thoughtfully modified to be more usable in modern traffic, while maintaining its vintage charm. The red paint really makes this car pop, and with that clean title, you're good to go. This would make an awesome cruiser that you could actually use regularly thanks to those practical upgrades. Plus, these early 60s Buicks are starting to gain more attention in the collector market.